everyone. Good afternoon. So usually when I speak in public, I try to pretend that I'm speaking to my younger sister. This is a picture of my younger sister. She's really cute. I'm cuter, but that's fine. That's debatable. And the reason why I pretend that I'm speaking to her is for two reasons. The first one is that she's 18 years old, which is a good age, and I feel like most of you in this audience might be closer to her age than mine. And 18 is a good age because that's kind of around the time where you stop feeling like you know better than everyone else around you, which is not what I still feel like a teenager in that sense sometimes. And the second reason why I like to pretend like I'm talking to her is because I really love my sister. So when I speak to people, I try to pretend like this is the kind of advice that I would give my younger sister in the hopes that it would be in the audience's best interest as well. So yeah, this is what I would say if my sister was in the room. But first, a little bit of context. My sister is the youngest of 5, right? There are 4, and then she's the 5th. And there's actually 7 years between the 4th and her. So there's a big age gap. She was an accident, as they like to call it. But a really good one. She's actually like the favorite child in the family. And when she was growing up, she had a lot of pressure because, unfortunately, her our older brother and sister, both became medical doctors, and myself and my other sister, we went to Yale and Harvard, respectively. So it was kind of like, either you go to Princeton or become a doctor or you suck, right? It was really crazy. So what we try and tell her, and what I've been trying to tell her is what I want to tell you today. So, we use the word successful a lot, right? The word success, we throw it around a lot. But usually when people say successful, what do they mean? It generally means like you have a really big car, a nice house, you're successful. You got straight A's in your SPM, you're successful. Or you went to Yale, you're successful. But the definition of successful is quite different. It basically is the accomplishment of an aim or a purpose, which means that success is what you achieve when you set out to do it, when you set out to achieve your own aim or purpose, when you complete something you set out to do. Unfortunately, when you're young, like when I was 18 or 19, I had no idea what I wanted to do. I hadn't figured out my purpose, which leads me to my first point. Success is overrated if it's not your own. So when I was at Yale, when I was in college, this is a picture of the campus. It's a beautiful campus, and I was doing a lot of things, right? People at Yale tend to do lots of things. So I was like leading several organizations, organizing like an annual conference. I had great friends. I had okay grades. I had decent grades. But the crazy thing is I was really miserable. I just compared myself to everyone all the time. I would wake up and just be like, wow, this person is more accomplished. This person's better looking. This person is just doing all these cool things. And I was just super, super miserable all the time. And I think that's because I hadn't discovered what I, myself, individually had to do. So I kept comparing myself to everyone. And I was so miserable that in my 4th year at university, and this is not something I've told people in public before, so this is a little bit crazy. In my 4th year at university, after I finished my senior year project, I actually checked myself into a hospital, and I almost didn't graduate. And I had to fly back very, very soon after that. So it was just this time where I think you could say that I was clinically depressed, and I really was super sad all the time. And you may think that that sounds crazy, but actually, 30% of college students in the US report feeling some feeling of depression that makes it too difficult to function at some point during their college career. That's a crazy number. That's like 1 in 3 people. And I wasn't alone in this. And I think for me, it was because I was just too busy comparing to actually have any gratitude for what I was actually doing. And when it comes to the job market, what you realize is that this comparison game, it plays out such that everyone thinks that only certain sectors are important, or only certain sectors mean success. So for example, this is real statistics, over 50% of Yale grads end up working in only 3 industries after graduation. In comparison, less than 1% of Yale grads become self-employed after graduation, which is, anecdotally totally true, because I had lots of friends who wanted to go and do something after, like, they had a tech solution, they wanted to do a startup, but they ended up, going into consulting because everyone else said that, oh, getting into McKinsey is like the highest success that you could achieve. And how does this play out in the Malaysian market? So I work in an internship and leadership program, and we get thousands of applications every year. 95% of our applicants apply to at least a consulting firm or an investment bank. The funny thing is, at Otak-Otak, we try to encourage diversity of industries. We have partners which are design spaces, we have startups, we have NGOs, we have lots of different companies that are conglomerates that are doing a bunch of different things. And everyone ends up applying for a few companies only. And it takes a lot of encouragement to tell people, maybe you should consider something else, because what you want to do is not necessarily linked to these companies. And the thing is, when I interview these people, most have no idea why they're applying to an investment bank or consulting firm. It's just because they've heard of the names and they think, oh, this is a successful career, or if I go into this industry, I'll make a lot of money, which is successful to my parents. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that banking or consulting or education or the public sector, I'm not saying those are not worthy careers. What I am saying is that my gut feel is that a lot of young people today, they choose to go into certain industries without really knowing why, without really understanding their own individual purpose. Which brings me to my second point. Success is overrated if you're scared of failure. And what do you mean by failure? I think in this case, failure means allowing yourself to do something unconventional that other people may look at you and say, that's not successful. So the courage, I think, is lacking. And that was very true for me. So after I came back to Malaysia, I started working in the Prime Minister's office. So I worked in a unit called PEMANDU, and this is my boss. That was Idris Jala, who was formerly, he has a crazy career, he worked at Shell, led transformation there for many years across the world, became CEO of Malaysia Airlines, and then joined this unit. And he used to say to us, what he used to say? He used to say, let me get my thoughts right. He used to say, you cannot truly succeed until you understand, until you're unafraid of failing. And when I heard that, I was like, what? That's crazy. Of course, if you want to not fail, if you want to succeed, you need to be really scared of failure. So I had no idea what he meant. And it was totally against everything that I had learned at Yale. And you see, I was in this job at the time, and I was working on education policy, and I was working with a lot of very important people, and it was, the work that we did was very meaningful. So we had, I was covering 10,000 government schools, working with a ton of people, doing very challenging and interesting work. But unfortunately, I was still miserable. So every day after coming back from the office, I would log onto Facebook and look at all my friends' profiles, and I'd compare myself to them. I'd be like, oh my God, this person just got married. Oh, I don't even have a boyfriend. This is terrible. Or oh, this person just got into Harvard Business School. I suck. What am I doing with my life? And I think this is actually a very common phenomenon. And I think this hashtag sums it up very well, fear of missing out. I felt like I was missing out on all these opportunities, even though what I was actually doing, I think was pretty great and totally fit in with what I was doing. And I think after thinking about this a little bit more, I came to realize that the real reason why I was upset or why I was unhappy was because I was fearful. I was fearful that I was not meeting expectations. I was fearful of not achieving everything that I could do. I was fearful of not achieving my full potential. Bronnie Ware, who's an Australian nurse who worked with a lot of terminal patients just before she passed away. She recently published this book. And one of the things that she said was that the number one regret of patients before they pass away is, I wish I'd had the courage to live a life true to myself and not the life others expected of me. And this, when I was thinking about this slowly over, the course of a couple of years, this became very true to me. I started thinking to myself, oh my goodness, I am so fearful. I'm not really understanding what I want to do and then really living up to it. And I think in my job at the time, I had really figured out what I wanted to do, but I was still worried about what other people thought about me. And I came to realize that the people who were happiest were the people who had figured out what they wanted to do and were just unafraid to do it. And leads me to one of my good friends whom I really am constantly inspired by. This man is a guy called Uma Pagan Ampike Pakan. It's a crazy name. I had to rehearse that a couple of times, obviously. Uma for short, Uma. And he is a great guy. He has more university degrees than I can keep track of. He could do anything. He's extremely smart. But what he decided to do was, he was trained as an engineer, but he said, you know what, I would really like to write and to read. And what he does now is he's a radio talk show host on BFM. He writes and reviews books and movies for a living. And he also is a star of a great YouTube show called That Effing Show, which is a huge political commentary show, which is great and is changing the way people think about politics today. And this is his tagline, I'm every Indian parent's nightmare. And he's single if you want his number. The other person whom I've had the honor to meet is a young lady called Sharun. Actually, she's not a young lady, but so she's incredible. She's worked as an engineer for many years. And then what she decided to do was she gave up her engineering career and she decided to join Teach For Malaysia as a fellow. So she's been working in a challenging school in Kuala Selangor for the past 2 years. And she recently has decided that she wants to make teaching her career for the rest of her life. And what she told me was, in teaching, she's found her reason for existence. And that is super powerful, right? Because how many people in this audience, I mean myself included, how many of us can say, I found my reason for existence? That's super great. And I think the world is a better place because people like Uma and Sharun have decided, this is what I'm going to do, and I'm going to do it regardless of what people think about me. So here are 3 questions for you. If you could do anything at all, what would it be? The second question is why? And the third question is, what is holding you back from doing that right now? And the answers to these questions may differ for everyone. So it may be, I want to be an artist, or you may say, I want to become an investment banker, or you may say, I want to earn enough money to give my parents the lifestyle they've always dreamed of. And all of these are worthy answers, as long as they are your answer. So when I started Otak-Otak with my 3 friends, we really thought it was going to fail. It was a lot of worries coming back. We all had full-time jobs, so we would come back after work and just be on Skype interviewing all these kids from the US, the UK, Malaysian universities, and all the time we were so worried that we would fail. And even at Teach For Malaysia, where I work right now, I help people like Sharun decide what they want to do after their 2 years in their fellowship. If they want to continue teaching, that's awesome. If they don't, we then help them to try and figure out how to continue their impact. And the work that I do is sometimes very frustrating because basically what I'm doing is I'm helping people to figure out what they want to do with their life. And that's sometimes frustrating because people are messy and complicated and they don't always know what they want to do. And it's my job to help them figure it out. And sometimes, it doesn't work and we fail and then we have to try again. But I think the difference is that I'm getting closer to this place where I'm realizing that this is actually what I want to do, which means that no matter how much work it is, no matter how difficult it is, I know that I am achieving my own true success, regardless of what other people think. And I still get questions like, why are you working for a nonprofit? Why is education so important? But I think that I've decided that this is my unique purpose, and that's what keeps me going. So I'm just going to leave you with these 3 questions again, but if my sister were in the room, I would tell her, that she should ignore everything else around her. She should ignore the voices that tell her you should go to Harvard, or you should go to Yale, or you should be a doctor. I would tell her to ignore people who are saying this is right and this is wrong. I would tell her to stop comparing herself to other people, because she's unique, she's different. And she has a unique and different purpose for her life, and she has her own success to discover and then to achieve. And I would tell her that when she discovers that purpose, I hope that she has the courage to take that step and to ignore what other people are saying and to really achieve that, because the world needs more Umas and Charuns. And I would say that to all of you, that the world needs more people who know why they're doing what they're doing and who are unafraid to do so. So thank you.